we had some great fun, and Steve was just absolutely hilarious. And if only you could have heard the outtakes, the bits that weren't broadcast. Of course, we'd have been closed down, but you'd have enjoyed it. They say it's people are more afraid of public speaking than death, which means that you would rather be actually in the coffin than doing the eulogy. It's crazy. I had a voice in my head saying, "What are you doing? You've had another bottle of wine and it's a Tuesday, and this isn't authentic. It isn't congruent with who you're meant to be. You're writing books on natural living. You're on the radio talking about natural everything. What are you doing?" And I was just stepping around this huge, great elephant in the room, really. And so I kind of held back for ages, literally, I literally thought, oh, I won't be good enough. It was that whole imposter syndrome.
Hi, I'm Cary, and welcome to the Eat Nourish Love podcast. For over 20 years, I've created events, raised over 4 million for good causes, and been lucky enough to meet some incredible people along the way. This podcast is about exploring stories and insights that really shape us, with inspiring guests from wellness, business, self-care, and personal growth. It's about learning to trust our intuition and discovering what truly matters, and how, with hard work, belief, and tenacity, we can make so many things happen.
Hi, Janey. I'm so excited to have you on the Eat Nourish Love podcast today. I've been wanting to have you for a long time because I've followed your work and everything you do. Janey, you have worked for the BBC for 25 years with Steve Wright in the afternoon. I still hear your voice. I can still hear the banter that you had for many years.
Yeah.
So you've been broadcasting and publishing and coaching for many, many years. But also, I think a lot of people don't know that you were you toured the world backing singer for George Michael, Wham.
For Wham, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all the Wham tours.
All the Wham tours. And obviously, everyone's going on to broadcasting and doing these podcasts, but who's better than you to be on this towel? Well, you've been doing it for a long time. So Janey, thank you. Welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really excited. So obviously, sad times now. Steve Wright has left us, and so you had a great relationship with it. 25 years with the BBC.
Yeah. It was 24 years for the big show. I was already doing the show on Radio 2 before that. But yeah, it's incredible. And when you think of all those years, all those guests, or how much fun we had, it wasn't actually till when the show ended. I knew that I would miss it and everything. But it wasn't until a couple of months later I sort of realized there was something really odd and I couldn't work out what it was. And then I realized it's just I literally wasn't laughing as much. I wasn't using my facial muscles. And I suddenly remembered, oh my God, how much fun did we used to have? I was laughing all the time. Yeah. And, I hadn't even realized it till it was over. So, yeah, we were lucky.
You do hear that on the radio, and you hear people going to the studio and having that banter. And actually, there's nothing like laughter to get you through
exactly.
life.
Yeah, we had some great fun. And Steve was just absolutely hilarious. And if only you could have heard the outtakes, the bits that weren't broadcast. Of course, we'd have been closed down, but you'd have enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, all those years ago, I remember when I used to hide upstairs and listen to Radio Luxembourg and Radio Caroline.
Yeah.
So it's been, and radio was such a key thing for us when we were growing up because we didn't have all the other different mediums of broadcasting and music and things. So how did you get into? Well, let's go back to your time with Wham.
Yeah. So I did all the tours. That was amazing, and in between, I was kind of trying to get my own thing together and do my own music and stuff. And then, let me see. I don't know how much of this old history you want. It's all documented I've got a memoir called From Wham to Woo. It's all documented in there. But you probably know I had my 5 minutes of fame with a hit single. Do you know about that?
No, I don't know. That's brilliant.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's a little gem for you. So 1991, I had a hit single with Cola Boy, 7 Ways to Love. So it was a massive rave track. And we were number 8 in the charts.
Wow.
And so that was super exciting. And that was literally kind of 5 minutes of fame. But it was while I was doing that, or literally just before, that I had another track out that wasn't a big hit, but it was with Paul Oakenfold, the DJ. And with that track, I'd been doing radio stations, just kind of going around talking about the music and everything. And that's when I kind of got the radio bug. And I remember thinking, oh, this is actually something I would love to do, reading out loud. And so it was just after that track came out and just before Cola Boy that I kind of made inroads and tried to get my first radio job. And my first radio job was with, back then it was called GLR. It's now BBC London. And I did a gospel music show for them. And that was my start in radio. And then from there, I went to Virgin. I was at Virgin for 6 years with when Richard Branson, started it, and Chris Evans and stuff. So I did a whole 6 years at Virgin, and then went to Radio 2.
Gosh, you have worked with some extraordinary people, haven't you?
Yeah,
Chris
I
Evans,
have,
and seen what he does these days, and
I know, it's amazing. Yeah, it really is amazing. Yeah, I was with Chris at GLR. His one of his very first radio gigs was at GLR. So I was kind of there when he very first came down from the north, So yeah, it's funny to think back.
So what do you think it is that attracts people to that? As you said, is it the banter, it's the relationships, and actually, what does it take to be a good presenter?
I think it's quite interesting because I think it's not till you actually get into radio that you realise how addictive it is actually. There's something really addictive about radio. It's a very special medium. I mean, obviously I've done TV as well, but I far prefer radio. You're talking to one person. You really are. You might be talking to millions, but actually you're talking to one. And I think that's the key, really, when you realise that people are listening at home, and sometimes you're their only company. And it's really an amazing thing being able to be relatable to. I think that was Steve's skill, really. He was able to always be relatable to whoever was listening, whether that's the guy driving a truck or my old mum in her care home or someone walking their kids to school, whatever. It didn't make any difference really who you were. He always managed to come up with topics that kind of hit the zeitgeist and are quite relatable. And I think that's the thing with radio. You just want it to keep you company, don't you? You want it to, and no matter what was going on, we were always up. We were never down. Even if we were down in real life, we were not on the radio. We were up because no one wants to hear a load of misery, do they?
No, so it's almost trains you to be a habit of that mental habit of staying
Totally,
doesn't it?
It does absolutely, and it is performance in inverted commas. You are kind of stepping into a different persona when you're on the radio, and so there was something quite special about that. Because you have to be fully present. You can't be kind of sitting on your phone or whatever it might be. So it really is addictive. And I still do some radio now. I do some BBC local radio. I don't have a show that's continuous. I do some depth shows, some sitting in for other people, which I absolutely love. So it kind of keeps my hand in, and I get to have that fix, if you like, of the addictive rate. I'd hate it if I wasn't doing any. I'd absolutely hate it. Yeah. You can see why people just volunteer and do it for free.
You can. But I also think that, and I think this is what's quite interesting with podcasts, and certainly I found that, is that when you're, and I listen to quite a lot of them, but actually there are some that I always go back to. It's a very comforting. You almost think that you've got a relationship with that person who's on that podcast, and you get to know them as much as anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I started my Alcohol-Free Life podcast. It took me ages to get a podcast going because for ages I just thought, oh, well, it won't be as great quality as I've been used to on the radio. I won't be able to have all that equipment. And so I kind of held back for ages, literally, I literally thought, oh, I won't be good enough. It was that whole imposter syndrome. So it stopped me from doing a podcast for such a long time. But in a way, I'm glad, because it meant that when I did start my podcast, it was something I was really passionate about. So I started the Alcohol-Free Life podcast in 2019. And again, when I first started it, I think I remember I started it because I wanted more podcasts to listen to, because actually listening to podcasts had been such a key thing for the early weeks of my sobriety. It had literally kept me sane, listening to podcasts, and I'd run out of them. I'd actually run out, gone back over all the old episodes of the ones I listened to. So I'd literally run out.
How could you run out of episodes of
Well,
podcasts?
of the ones I was tuned into. I mean, of course, there are millions of others, but the ones I was tuned into, there are a bunch of sobriety podcasts from people just like me who weren't at rock bottom, but they'd been drinking more than they wanted to. And those podcasts, I literally listened to every back episode. And so when I'd kind of run out, and the one that I listened to, I remember they stopped doing it. So, oh my goodness. And then I realized, hold on a minute, I've got connections to so many great people, and interviewing is what I do for a living. So why don't I just do my own? And so I remember thinking, you know what, I'm just going to kick off and I'll start it and I'll interview a few people, Catherine Gray and Claire Pooley. And I had a few great people on the podcast to start with. And I figured, well, if nobody listens, I'll just stop. But of course it became quite a success, and it's my passion project, really. It's my absolute labor of love. I never went down the route of signing up to any of these agencies where they put ads in or anything, because I just thought, actually, I just want it to be, I want people to be able to listen to it without a load of ads.
Yeah, because I think it's grown so much. I mean, people are putting podcasts together, and someone said, why did you start it? And I said, well, because actually, I just love people, and I've met some amazing people through my fundraising work. And actually just started it, and someone just gave me the confidence to start doing it remotely as opposed to doing it in a studio. And it just meant that I could interview all sorts of amazing people, because it's distance, it doesn't take too much time. And actually, I think with AI and everything coming in, actually, if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter so much, does it? Because at least it makes it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so obviously BBC, you were with them, and then what did you do after you left the radio?
Well, I mean, throughout the whole period, I was writing books. My first book, Imperfectly Natural Woman, is 20 years old this year, which is really scary. And ever since that book came out, I've been doing my holistic living stuff, running a website, recommending and promoting natural products. And then 2019, I started the podcast. I wrote Happy, Healthy, Sober in 2020. And I've been running the Sober Club, my community, since 2019 as well. So all of it was running alongside, really.
Yeah.
And then what's ramped up, as it were, since I've left Radio 2 is that I now have a lot more focus on my my coach training that I do, as well as the Sober Club and the kind of speaking gigs that I do, and also the kind of I do a lot helping therapists, coaches, practitioners get their message out there, because of my background, because I've kind of been in both worlds, if you like. So obviously I've been that writer, that influencer, if you like, wanting press and wanting PR, but I've also been on the other side of the mic as the person receiving the press releases. So I'm in quite a good place to know what journalists want, what they don't want. So I try and help, certainly heart-centered businesses, as I would call it, to get their message out there and be able to be authentic in standing in the spotlight. Because, believe it or not, public speaking is like the number one fear. Did you know that? I mean, they say it's people are more afraid of public speaking than death, which means that you would rather be actually in the coffin than doing the eulogy. It's crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's just skills. It's just skills, So I teach that, and I help people.
So it's so funny, because many years ago, our daughter had a health issue, and so I joined a network marketing company actually that was took all the known harmful ingredients out of your products and lots of nutritional products. It was called New Ways at the time, then Modern. It's gone now, but I was a distributor for that, and she had about 750 accounts. It did really well, but it wasn't actually because I wanted to be a networker. It was because actually I loved the product and told everyone about it. It was just is who I was. But I did have to stand up in front of 2,000 people and do a presentation, and I think it's those sort of things that I think I had some training with John Abalafia. He was a big guy who taught you how to speak in the theatre and things, and it was a very good training for me. Although I never knew that would help me in the future. But you're right, this public speaking is a big thing for people. Big thing.
It is. It really is. Yeah. And knowing sort of, I think particularly, for women who have perhaps small businesses that they've started because they're passionate about something. So I work with a lot of brands who have natural skincare, that kind of thing. And for many of them, they're doing this work because they're passionate about whatever the thing is, or they want to help people, or they're a practitioner, a therapist. They're not doing it because they are expecting the big bucks or anything like that. Although, of course, I hope they are abundant. But But what we have to try and help them recognize is it's still about you. Even though you're not a big corporate, it's still about you. And actually, you have to be visible if you want, to attract any clients or buyers. And without clients or buyers, you don't have a business at all. So we try and change the spin on it so they realize, well, actually, by sort of stepping into the spotlight, I can help more people, basically, than if I hide. So, yeah.
It's interesting because earlier this year, because I run lots of fundraising things, but I set up something called the Inner Collective, which is all about elevating brands, small businesses.
Oh, great.
I've been involved in that for a long, long time. I've done one of these big fairs, like a Spirit of Christmas down here in Wiltshire. And it's often not the brands that you are good at there. It's the people who just don't know how to be visible. And
exactly that.
And so many people are now coming out of the corporate world. They want to do coaching, or they want to do training, or they want to produce a skincare brand, or whatever it is. But actually, it's hard work, isn't it? And you've really got to be visible.
Yeah, you really do. And I think that can be one of the hardest things to sort of overcome for a lot of people, because I remember, I used to work with therapists, and I'd ask them, tell me in a sentence, what you do or whatever. And sometimes that was hard for them. And then I'd say, let me have a look at your website. There's no image of them. And they go, oh, no, but it's not about me. It's about EFT or Reiki or whatever. I go, well, actually, it's about you, because there's only one you. And there are millions of practitioners we could choose, but we need to see you. We need to be able to like, know and trust you. So I do a lot. I do quite a reasonable amount of that now. And I include it in my own coach training as well, because the coaches I train, I really want them to get out there if they want to. I mean, I did this survey with the Federation of Holistic Therapists some years ago, and I couldn't believe the percentage. It was a survey of how many therapists had trained to do the work they do, but they'd never actually got started. The percentage was huge.
Was it?
It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. It was almost as if, what's the missing link here? Is it skills? Is it confidence? Is it a combination of both? It was really fascinating. But I think a lot of it came down to just not knowing how to attract those clients, how to get that messaging right and attract clients to them.
Did you think that's quite a thing, not just about training? It could be because people, they want to lose weight, or they want to stop drinking, or they want to do whatever, and they just don't know how to put it into action. There is a missing link.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely that as well, for sure. I mean, I think, certainly, with the whole alcohol piece, I mean, I don't know how much you know about my story, but I thought I was relatively successful at doing stuff I wanted to do. If I made a decision, I was usually pretty good at it. But this was one that just confounded me. I thought, oh, you wake up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. Oh my God, what are you doing? I had a voice in my head saying, what are you doing? You've had another bottle of wine and it's a Tuesday, and this isn't authentic. It isn't congruent with who you're meant to be. You're writing books on natural living. You're on the radio talking about natural everything. What are you doing? Yeah. And I was just stepping around this huge, great elephant in the room, really. So I'd kind of make a decision. Oh, okay, right. Well, I'm going to stop today. Obviously, I need to stop. And then by 6 o'clock the next evening, the wine which would be in my ears.
We've all done it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, you've had such a busy day, and I couldn't seem to crack it. So, yeah, I mean, that went on for years, literally years and years and years, because our culture would have us keep drinking, basically. It's an alcohol trap, and it serves a lot of people for the majority to be in it, caught in it.
That's your TED Talk, which is extraordinary, which I'd seen and I followed, and so what was the elephant?
Alcohol. I was literally drinking, pretty much every day, and you could argue so is everybody else, but that doesn't make it right. I mean, I think that in this country we tend to think there's two types of drinkers. We know there are some people who are at rock bottom. They need rehabilitation, or they need medication, they need support. We know about those people, the ones at rock bottom. And there's a sort of, oh, there but for the grace of God go I. Thank goodness I'm not that bad, was always my line. And then we tend to think there's everyone else. There's that tiny percentage of people who are at rock bottom. And then there's everyone else, just happy social drinkers who just now and then can't hold their beer. But that's not the truth. It's the spectrum. And there are many, many, many people on that kind of booze elevator, as it were, who want to stop. They actually want to stop. There's a massive percentage of people who drink who say they wish they didn't. And my life's work, if you like, is to try to remind those people that if you choose to, and it's only if you choose to, I'm not up for prohibition, but for those people who choose to, if they can catch sight of that life without alcohol, they can step off that booze elevator before they hit rock bottom. And nobody ever told me how freaking fantastic life is without alcohol. I never heard that. Nobody ever told me that. I only heard, oh, you must stop, or you must, or don't stop, or whatever. But nobody ever tells you, oh my God, life is, exponentially better and different without alcohol. Could never have imagined it.
So it's really interesting because I think we've probably grown up in the sort of same era, and if you think about what the parents used to do, they used to have these tiny little wine glasses. So it was it has the way it's escalated has been massive.
Totally, it's practically 3/4 of a bottle in a glass, isn't it? A large glass of wine.
Yeah. And also, I remember that actually I didn't drink very much when I was younger and my teens. We didn't have such a drinking habit. There was a bit, but not really. And I remember I used to get sort of high on Cary water now, which is like sparkling water.
Yeah.
And it was only my later years, actually. If I said to my children, no, I didn't used to drink, they would go, ridiculous. You love a glass of wine or champagne or whatever it was. But I now notice that the difference. I mean, I can go for months without it and have a few drinks, but I notice the difference hugely when I'm not on it, and it's very, very. I find it, it's very addictive. There's no question of that. But also, I think so let's go back to our generation. So where do you think it all went? Well, not wrong, but how did it escalate so much?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think that if I think back to my old mum, she might have had a baby sham. That was the drink for women, right? Or an Advocar at Christmas. What the hell is even that? What is that? Snowball or something. But the thing is, I think I don't know what year it would have been. Would it be, I don't know, 80s? I'm not sure, but maybe late 70s, when the alcohol industry started to realize, hold on a minute, women are a massive market and we're not targeting them. They've got baby sham and perhaps a spritzer. That's it. There's something wrong there. And I really think a lot changed when the alcohol industry started massively targeting women. And it suddenly became cool for people to be drinking, spirits and Bacardi. Remember the Bacardi Breezer ads? Yeah. And I remember from Virgin Radio playing the Bacardi Breezer ads because they were some of the best ads you've ever heard. I mean, they were fantastic. I can remember them even now. And the marketing companies have got it right. And it's funny, isn't it? Because, the marketing companies never actually show you their customers after they've taken a drink. You see them with the bottle, but you never see them afterwards because that wouldn't look so good. But I think that's when it all changed, when women started to drink loads more. And then that led into the kind of ladette culture, didn't it? Where you weren't really a funky woman unless you were drinking as many pints as the guys. So I think it's ramped up massively over the years. But then, of course, the tide has turned as well, because there is, of course, a massive backlash. And, there are many, many, certainly younger people, lots of millennials choose not to drink at all, or they drink mindfully. I mean, I'm not sure it definitely isn't all of them for sure, but they definitely don't drink the same way that we drank when we were, teens and 20s. But I think older people, the baby boomers, they're the ones caning it actually, still. So I mean, I think that's when it ramped up. But yeah, maybe the tide is turning a little bit. Definitely with the rise of great alcohol-free drinks, that makes a massive difference. I've got this mantra: keep the ritual, change the ingredients. I'm a really, really big believer in that, because I think as adults, we like a grown-up drink. If I'm going to a party or an occasion or whatever, and everyone is there chinking their glass, their lovely champagne flute. It really annoys me that glasses have to be named after the alcohol that goes in them. How annoying is that?
It could be,
yeah, exactly. How annoying.
So they're fist flutes or whatever.
Yeah, why not just a goblet or something? But everyone's chinking their lovely glasses, and I've got my warm orange juice, and your unconscious mind just kind of goes, well, this is actually a bit crap, really, and you're missing out. And actually, we're not missing anything. There is nothing to miss. So I think when you also have a lovely glass with alcohol-free fizz in it, or kombucha, or whatever you like, there are masses of amazing grown-up alcohol-free drinks. You have exactly the same feeling of pleasure. We're adults. We seek pleasure. Sometimes that's in the form of something nice we're drinking in a nice glass, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't have to be toxic.
No. I've actually just done a post. I was at Chelsea Flower Show yesterday, and one of our ambassadors, someone I've worked with, is Amanda Thompson from Naughty, the non-alcoholic.
Oh, I know Amanda really well. They're sponsoring my Platinum Awards.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
I love Naughty.
Oh, so Amanda's an ambassador for ENL Collective, and she just I took two of our collective brands were at Chelsea, so I went and popped a bit of Naughty with them at Chelsea. So we took Naughty into Chelsea. So yeah, brilliant. It's great. But you see, and that's lovely because actually she's got it so right. It's hard work, but she also, what she was saying was that she loves being in America because they're also positive, whereas in this country it's harder. It's harder to break through.
Yeah. She's done great though. Yeah. Oh yeah, I talk about Naughty a lot. I very often promote them. I love them.
Yeah, absolutely. They've done a great job. And let's go back to what you were just saying, was the fact that it's certainly my children. I can see the difference in the drinking and what they're doing. And, it's just, even if they do drink, they wouldn't see a bottle in the week at all.
No.
Never.
No, that's true.
And even at weekends, they just don't drink wine at home. They might drink it or whatever, but it has changed.
I do think that more younger people are aware and open about their issues around mental health and well-being and anxiety levels, and finally it's becoming clear that there is a massive link. A massive link between alcohol and mental health issues. And I'm not trying to say that that everything cures the moment you stop drinking, but whatever you've got going on, alcohol will exacerbate it massively. And the fact that, I'm sure you will have heard me say it before, but one of my high horses that I jump on is the fact that it drives me bonkers when women, particularly, I have a lot of clients who'll tell me that they rock up to a GP, they'll say, I'm not sleeping well, I've got mood swings, I'm really anxious, I've got this going on, I've got that going on. And they'll leave with a prescription for antidepressants and or HRT, sometimes both, but they won't be asked about their drinking. So they come home with their boxes of pills and then down a bottle of wine. What the hell? What is their body meant to do with that? It's utterly crazy.
So when did you set up the club?
I set up the Sober Club just after the TED Talk, actually, in 2019, because I did the TEDx talk and I'd completely forgotten that there was going to be an audience. I'd completely forgotten. I obviously knew it was being filmed for TED.com, but I'd literally forgotten. And so there I am in front of this audience, like 250 people in this theatre. It's like, oh, wow, I've got real people here. And I suddenly remember feeling really nervous about it was the first time I'd ever really spoken about it. So anyway, obviously I did the talk, and afterwards we went and had a break, had a cup of tea or something, and honestly, one by one, people came up to me and they kind of moved me aside, and they said, you literally described me. That's exactly how I am, and I don't want to go to AA or anything like that, but I don't know what to do. Can I contact you? And I thought, wow, hold on a minute, there's something going on here. And I knew it was much more than just a sober community. It had to be more than that. It had to be about the whole well-being picture. So that's why I started the Sober Club, and that's what we do. It is an amazing platform, if you like, for all different aspects of well-being, absolutely everything, but it's all underpinned by quitting alcohol. So we've got members who are day one, sober curious, and then we've got people who've been sober for 10 years, because there's always something else, right? There's always something else you want to level up.
So it's not just about not drinking, it's about the wellness.
No,
about the mental.
Yeah. Everything, yeah. We cover, nutrition and obviously how the brain works, and NLP and reducing limiting beliefs, and we've got lovely hypnosis audios and meditations and movement medicine and absolutely everything. But it's underpinned by that, I suppose, my belief that even one glass is harmful. That's it.
Yeah.
And that we're future pacing everything. We don't need to look back. It's that I genuinely believe that once you've quit, you're free from the alcohol trap, and you just keep leveling up your well-being. And that's what tends to happen. People tend to quit alcohol, and then in so doing, they start to discover who they really are, and they start to become interested in different aspects of well-being. And I always remember one of the sober club members really made me laugh, because she said, I kind of came to this club because I just needed to quit alcohol, but suddenly my family don't recognize me because I'm doing exercise and I'm doing meditation and I'm into angel cards. And it's like, what have you done to me? It's quite funny.
I love it, but it all works together, doesn't it? And actually, I think in many ways is that, I many years ago did something with Professor Clark, and anyway, I decided to reduce sugar, give up sort of sugar, and change my diet. And it was extraordinary how my body changed, my body shape changed, and how. And I think Stephen Butler said it the other day, he sort of went and looked at these cinnamon buns or whatever, and he was on. And once you see it, you're not hungry. You don't need it. It's not. It's not shouting at you to pick it up. And I think sugar's very addictive, and from that point of view, because it takes over your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. And we do a lot around that in the sober club and in the coach training that I do, because of course so many people quit alcohol and then they become sugar monsters. So we have to kind of look at that cross addiction piece, which is really common. But there are ways to deal with that without being totally prescriptive, because it's not a great idea to try to completely quit sugar at exactly the same time as quitting alcohol. Alcohol is the most important one. Quit that first. When you've done that, actually you can do anything.
So how did it start for you? You talked about the podcast run out. What was your journey?
Into quitting alcohol?
Yeah.
So well, as I say, I was waking up at 3 a.m. That went on for years and years. I had periods where I would stop. Obviously when I had my kids, I've got 4 kids. I would go on juice detoxes with Jason Vale and quit, and quit alcohol. I remember one occasion I quit for a good 6 months. And felt great and really was feeling all the benefits. But then I went to some function where they wanted me to present an award, and they kind of handed me this glass of champagne, and the little voice in my head kind of goes, well, it would be rude not to. And obviously I don't have a problem because I've just been not drinking for 6 months. So clearly it's fine. I can just have one. And then, of course, I was straight back down the booze elevator. Because I hadn't actually done the work. I hadn't actually put the work in, as it were. I hadn't actually set my focus and really, really, really appreciated what I was gaining without alcohol. I hadn't let go of this idea that, it's normal to have one drink. I hadn't let go of that. So that went on for years and years and years. And then eventually, at the end of 2017, I was given Claire Pooley's book by the producer at the BBC to read over the Christmas break. And typically in radio, you're lucky if you get a book the night before if you're interviewing the author. But because it was Christmas, we were given kind of 2 weeks to read this book. And Claire Pooley's book, The Sober Diaries, was given to me, and the producer said, oh, have a read of this because the author's coming in on the 2nd of January. I swear I looked at that title and I absolutely knew. I just knew in that moment, oh, all right, this is going to be it. This is going to be it. So, of course, I didn't even read it until after Christmas. I thought I didn't want to spoil my Christmas. So I started it on, I think it was the 29th of December, quit on the 31st. And initially, I was just going to do dry January. So I thought, well, I'll do dry January because that'll be easy. Everyone's doing that. And I'll get to meet Claire and I can tell her how much I loved the book. And, I did love the book because the difference with that book was that Claire was a regular person just like me, busy, working, kids, family, not at rock bottom, but drinking kind of every day and hating herself and waking up at 3 a.m. And it was like reading about myself. And once she got free, she was talking about how great life was. And so I kind of caught sight of that. I got this kind of carrot on the end of a stick, if you like. And thank goodness I was able to keep playing that tape forward. And at the end of the dry January, I just kind of remember thinking, well, I haven't seen an awful lot of benefits yet, but I keep kind of, Claire's book promises that they'll come. So maybe I'll do 3 months. And then that was it, and literally never looked back. And thank God. My only regret is not doing it sooner, really. I so wish I'd made that decision, 30 years ago.
What difference would it have made, do you think?
Oh, a huge amount of difference, actually. I mean, it really is my only regret. I would have been much more present for my kids when they were young. I would have been able to be just like myself, really. I mean, I think one of the biggest things around quitting alcohol is I reckon if I could kind of wrap this piece up and sell it, I'd be incredibly rich. But it's actually really difficult to describe because no one tells you this piece. And I suppose I don't know if it happens for everyone, but it certainly happens to the majority of people that I work with. You get to a point where you're able to actually be comfortable in your own skin. You're able to actually like yourself again. Now, the irony there, of course, is that for me, I was, queen of natural living, holistic living, spirituality. I was a Hay House author.
Yeah.
I interviewed everyone, and I mean everyone. I worked with Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer and, you name it. I was the best. So there wasn't anything that I didn't know about spirituality and meditation. But yet, if you'd asked me my own personal story, if you'd said to me, oh, tell me about your morning practice, I'd have just said, don't be ridiculous. It's not for me. I'll interview all these amazing guys, but no, I can't do it. I mean, the irony was just bizarre, really. But of course, I couldn't sit in meditation for even 5 seconds because I now realize that I wasn't authentic. So I couldn't sit still because somewhere, just like it did at 3 a.m., a voice would come in and remind me, this is not okay. It's not okay. It's not authentic with who you are. It's really not okay. So I would get that reminder and it was just too painful and too difficult to deal with. And once you do quit, once you actually get free from this trap, and I genuinely believe it's a trap, and when you get free, you can actually start to appreciate yourself again, and you can become curious about what it would feel like to be someone who, really had a good sense of self-esteem. Because I for sure did not, back then. So I mean, I'm not trying to say that I can levitate. Even now, I still find meditation hard, but I can show up. I can be comfortable in who I am. I think as a parenting hack, oh my goodness, anyone's got kids and they're wondering what to do, then quit the booze. It's the best parenting hack ever. Because, the reality is when you're drinking, you often don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, quite rightly. You aren't really that trustworthy. You certainly wouldn't be able to drive your kids to hospital if they needed you in the middle of the night. You're knackered, aren't you, for that? But you kind of don't trust yourself. And I remember back, to when my kids would, be pressing buttons. I got very feisty kids. And I remember sometimes how I got kind of glimpses of memory as to how, well, just badly behaved I was really. Just I didn't handle things well. And I now realize it's because, there's that awful expression that people say, it's the drink talking. Oh, I hate that expression. But actually, it probably was, And so I look back, I think, God, if only, and if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking, well, I'm not that bad, then I always say that the question to ask yourself, and I'm not trying to persuade anyone to quit alcohol. If you're good, then you're good. The only question I would recommend that people ask themselves is, could my life be better physically and emotionally without alcohol? And if you kind of ask your gut and your gut says, hell yeah, then quit. It will be the best thing you'll ever do for your health and well-being. If, on the other hand, your gut reaction is, no, I'm absolutely good, then you probably are.
I think that's the intuition piece. It's really interesting because I love all these things that measure your alcohol level and fitness level. And I know certainly my daughter, the Whoops helped her hugely for what she's done because she's done the marathon and bits and pieces, and she does monitor that. But and I think that's great. But I think actually, if you really ask yourself these questions, don't you? Intuition.
You absolutely do. And also, intuition really does tell you. And also, I think that there's a real problem with just looking for the kind of conventional wisdom on this stuff, because most GPs will say, "Oh, I mean, what's the line? 14 units or something." I mean, have you ever heard anything
12
so
units.
utterly ridiculous? Whatever the hell it is, it's stupid. That figure was plucked out of nowhere, and it is certainly not okay. I mean, it's not okay. And if you're someone who has to count your units, if you have to count to 14, trust me, you won't be stopping at 14. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
If you have one glass a week or something and then you don't think about it for 3 weeks, you're probably genuinely a mindful drinker. Some people are like that.
Yeah.
They genuinely don't think about it.
Yeah.
It's really not a thing for them. If there was none around for 6 months, they wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
That's a genuine mindful drinker. But if you're someone who is going, "Oh God, actually I had one last night, so that will be my 14th. I can tell you now, you won't be stopping at 14. And actually, let's be clear, even one glass is harmful. I hate having to say that, because if you'd said that to me 9 years ago, I'd have said, just stop it and don't be silly. But it's the truth.
It's interesting because they use the measurements units. What does that really look like? As you said, a glass, half. People like to say a glass is a unit, whatever, and some glasses take 3/4 of a bottle of wine.
Yeah,
it's a little bit like someone was talking about sugar. How much sugar is in rice, chocolate bar, banana, all these different areas, and people don't understand what grams per whatever. Whereas if you look at the teaspoons of how many teaspoons there are of various things, people don't realise that rice is very high in sugar. All these different things that spike things. But also I think a lot of people. You were saying quit the alcohol, then let's address the sugar. I think what happens is often people are not addressing what the problem is, because actually,
of course,
it's filling a void, isn't it? A lot of the time.
Exactly that. But it's very difficult to address those things when you're still drinking.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Yeah,
people have all kinds of stuff going on, anxiety, things that, trauma, whatever the trauma is, whether it's big T or little t, whatever the thing is that you've got going on. I know this because I did this for years. I tried every goddamn therapy there was, everything. I mean, I was lucky that a lot of it was through the work I do. I got to try, all kinds of therapeutic techniques and treatments, and I would write about them and review them. So I'm really fortunate in that I've there's probably isn't a therapeutic technique that I haven't tried, actually. But now I look back, I realize that on many occasions, I would say to the therapist, if I felt comfortable with them, it'd be an amazing session and I'd have energy healing or whatever I had, aromatherapy, everything. And then at the end of that session, I would sometimes say, something, I'm a little bit worried about my drinking, actually. I'm kind of drinking every day. And without fail, that one after the other, they go, "Oh, well, you look fine. I mean, just have an alcohol-free day." One therapist told me to switch to vodka because it was less calories. I mean, for God's sake, because everyone is stepping around this goddamn elephant in the room, or too many people are anyway.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I quit that I realized, oh God, right, I get it now. Now I get it. Now I can actually be who I actually am authentically. And from that place, I can set boundaries. I can be the kind of person I want to be. If I want to address something else, whether that's sugar or whatever, I'm so much more resilient. If I need to go back and heal trauma, I can do that from a place of authenticity, not intoxication.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
So in your work, you must have worked with some incredible people and seen some huge results with the work. How does that make you feel? You must feel great that you can help people and you can bring this to so many. Because I mean, how many people
it is just amazing. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, I've obviously got the Sober Club community, and then I work one-to-one as a coach. And I wish I'd kind of kept every testimonial, really, because it is unbelievable the amount of messages you get just saying, my life has changed because of this. Some of the one-to-one coaching that I've done with clients has been, really profound. They've literally changed their lives. I mean, so many people do when they quit alcohol. They kind of find a new purpose. They discover, just something else within them that they could never have imagined. I remember one Sober Club member who proudly said that she'd gone back to uni and done an MA in creative writing, and she just couldn't even imagine that would be her. It just wasn't like anything she would ever think she could do. And then there are others who, one woman saved enough money to buy a camper van to go traveling because of not drinking, So amazing things. And I've had one-to-one clients who just say to me, literally, I feel like I've been given a second chance at life. So it's pretty cool. And now with the work that I'm doing, training people to be sober coaches, I kind of get the benefit of seeing all the amazing ripple effect that they create. So we need, we just need more people spreading the word that life is better without alcohol, because the media don't give you that message.
No.
You occasionally get you occasionally see an episode of whatever the hell, The Archers or whatever, or something on TV where there's someone struggling, isn't there? There's always someone in the theme. There was an EastEnders theme, and there's always someone, but they're always at rock bottom. And when you watch those things, you say to yourself, oh, thank you, God. Oh, I'm not that bad. You never just see the average person at the bar, waking up at 3 a.m. thinking, well, what am I doing? It's not okay.
I think also the other thing that you've created here is the fact that a lot of people are inhibited because they may feel guilty, whether it's because they're toting too much, or they're financially not in a good place, or they're drinking too much. And I think by what you've created here is you can still have a bit of be slightly anonymous as well, so it's not in a public place. That's why a lot of people don't like to go to AA, because they don't want to be public about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think AA does some great work for community. But personally, the majority of the clients that I've worked with and the majority of the people in the Sober Club would not want to go down the AA route. They don't identify with it in any way. They would absolutely not say they're an alcoholic because they aren't. And they certainly wouldn't say they're an alcoholic when they're already sober. So I genuinely don't believe that mentality of holding on to a dis-ease. I don't believe that. I believe you can be free. You can be free from the alcohol trap, and you can choose to live a life free from alcohol. And so everything we do is very forward focused. Yeah. Of course, we look at what might be behind it all. Absolutely, we do. We look at the limiting beliefs, we look at the trauma, we look at what might have gone on. There's often stuff that needs to be done, of course. But whatever you have to do, whichever piece of work you need to do. I'm also a family constellations therapist. Right. So I'm a really big believer in going back and doing some work on stuff that's is entangling you, if you like, holding you back. I'm a really big believer in that. But I also realize that it's very difficult for that to really make a massive impact in your life if you're still drinking. When you get free from alcohol, from that place, you're much more resilient to deal with everything else. You see everything in different perspective.
You've written a book. You've written a book, and you've also got a podcast. So just let's talk about your book now.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of books, but the Happy, Healthy, Sober book has just been, there's a new edition just come out. I've got a foreword by Denise Welsh, which is really great because, Denise has been sober for a lot of years, but she also shares in that foreword a bit about her anxiety and her depression and the impact of quitting alcohol on that. So she also was a podcast guest. So yeah, the book is it gives you a kind of a, if you like, 30-day framework to quit if you want to quit. Yeah. But then there's also a massive lifestyle section. So even if you're not quitting alcohol, there's loads of amazing stuff in there. I've got some incredible experts contributed to the book. So there's all the science piece, there's all the neuroscience in there. And there's everything, from nutrition. There's a lovely section written by Jason Vale. There's loads of amazing experts contributed. So I'm really proud of it as a kind of a lifestyle book, if you like. And then the podcast is called Alcohol Free Life. And yeah, I've had some amazing guests on that. I'm very lucky. I've had some brilliant people.
And as I say, we've talked about the younger generation coming into this and how they're changing and how they're looking at everything. I think there's a big shift going on. There's no question of that. But I think they're also open to talking about things a lot more. I always remember, actually, just going back to something you talked about, which is Louise Hay. I always remember one of her books always came with a mirror.
Yeah. So it's one of the things I share in my talks, actually, that Louise Hay is a really big fan of mirror work. And she used to have, she used to keep a little mirror in her bra. so she could whip it out at any time and go, "Oh, I love you, Louise." And I was doing an event with her, and she literally asked the audience, the whole audience at the break, to go to the bathrooms and look in the mirror and say, "I love you," followed by your name. It did not go down well. It's just not what we do in the UK, is it? We were kind of running into the loo going, "I love you," ooh, running out again. It was so painful. But yeah, it's
The mirror work, that's right.
Yeah, the mirror work is really actually very powerful.
And before we leave this podcast, I have to say it's just been so enlightening. I'm so glad I've had you on this podcast, because I think that, that people are struggling out there. I mean, I certainly have times when I've had problems with alcohol. I know that it's stemmed into my life, and I completely get it. So it resonates so well with me as well. But what 3 things would you leave our listeners with? 3 takeaways.
Well, I think number 1 would be ask yourself that question: could my life be better physically and emotionally without alcohol? And it's a really quick question. You'll get a quick answer.
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes from your gut, quit. You will never do anything better for your health and well-being. Come and join us in the Sober Club. Get support. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I think number 2 is become curious about self-love and self-esteem. And the reason I say that is because, I now know, all those years ago, I just thought it was for everyone else. Now I realise that it's open to us all, but it's not a case of clicking your fingers. Sometimes it's a slow burn. You have to just become curious about what it might feel like to be the person who actually really takes care of themselves. I've got so many clients who have got, they're people pleasers, and they love, they're so kind and lovely, and they do everything for everyone, but they've got 0 self-esteem, 0, and I mean 0. And sometimes I'll ask them, "What do you want for you?" And they'll tell me, "Oh, I just want my mum to be well." Or, "No, what do you want for you?" "Oh, I want my son." "No, I said you." And then they'll burst into tears because they hadn't thought about that question for 30 years, So become curious about that self-love piece. And then number 3 would be, in my memoir, From Wham to Woo, a theme that emerges, and I hadn't even realized it, was just this idea that when you know what you want, just go after it. I know it sounds really simple, but most people don't. Most people kind of go, "Oh, I do it when the kids leave home," or, "Well, I do it if I get more money," or, "If I do it when I feel confident." If there's something you want, just go after it. Make it happen.
Oh, that comes back to what, believe, hard work, and tenacity, and make many things happen. Actually, I think it's often, you think once you've got the belief that it'll happen, I think sometimes you do the work, the belief will come.
Absolutely.
Have some tenacity, and then many things can happen. So I think
Absolutely.
it's do the work, start the work, do one little thing today. That's what I've had my mantra a little bit, is don't wait for the belief, don't wait to find your passion, just get into it and roll your sleeves up and find a way through, because you can. And you attract many people around you who come into your life for the right reasons at the right time. The conversations happen at the right time, and I think
totally.
so. Where can everybody find you? Where's the club? Where's your book?
Yeah, I'm very easy to find on social media at Janey Lee Grace, and you can just go to thesoberclub.com and you find everything there.
Oh, what a lovely, lovely conversation, Jenny. Thank you so much for being on it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.